We're recording.
I think it's recording. Okay,
we did it.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, and welcome to Please and Take It With You. I'm Bailey Maxwell.
And I'm Caitlin Martell.
And I am so excited today. We are going to be talking about Cinderella, the
1997 TV movie starring Brandy as Cinderella. I've got the cast list here. It's long. Brandy as Cinderella, Whitney Houston as the fairy godmother, Paolo Montalban as Prince Christopher, Bernadette Peters as the stepmother, Natalie Desselle Reid as Minerva, V.N. Cox as Calliope, Jason Alexander as Lionel, Whoopi Goldberg as Queen Constantina, and Victor Garber as King Maximilian. All-star cast.
Incredible cast. That is sort of the standout thing I think about this movie is that the cast was so beautiful and expansive and talented. So many talented people.
Talented. I mean, we couldn't do this podcast and not talk about this movie because it's just iconic, and it's a milestone. I would consider it an absolute milestone because it's fantastic. It was directed by Robert Iscove. I don't know how we Iscove. So Robert.
He did such a great job. I did not realize. So I guess I knew that there had already been a televised Cinderella version with Julie Andrews. It was the 1957 one with Julie Andrews. And then I didn't know that there was a remake in 1965 with Leslie Ann Warren. I think I had heard of that version, but I did not think that it was Rodgers and Hammerstein for some reason. I thought it was like a different Cinderella, like a different version.
You know, and it's interesting because I feel like every generation kind of has their Cinderella. And I'm honestly so pleased that ours is Brandy. Like,
I am so pleased. It's the best one. It's the best one. It's the one that you want to watch over and over again because
there's so much to it. Like there's so much. I mean, we'll talk about it in a bit, but like there's so much going on in the background. It's rich. It's so good.
It's rich.
It's as rich as the colors and the costumes.
So Cinderella is unique in that it was the only Rodgers and Hammerstein musical that was written for television, which was the first one was the Julie Andrews version, which I guess I knew that but didn't realize that. Does that make sense? Like I knew that it was never a musical on Broadway at first. Then it was back in 2012,
I believe 12 or 13.
But before then it hadn't been on Broadway, and it kind of makes sense because I think the initial transition, they changed a lot in the script. It works to make it work better for stage. But the TV version, I just loved so much. I watched it growing up. We had recorded it, with a VHS on our television because they like played it on TV, obviously played it on TV, and we recorded it. And I think we had a VHS of it for a long time. So good.
Well, it's so great because, and it was the revival of, like, they used this particular version in 1997 as the revival of the Wonderful World of Disney anthology series. Like they had been looking to revive it, and they were like, well, we need something big. We need something that's going to like get attention for people to watch
Whitney
this.
Houston. She's
and
like,
Whitney came strolling in and was like, I got this.
So what was fun, we had kind of talked about this earlier, but Whitney Houston was originally supposed to play Cinderella, the title role. My cat is currently digging in his litter box, so please excuse the scratching.
Digging a tunnel.
He is starting a good one. But Whitney Houston was originally supposed to play Cinderella, but then it kind of took some time for the film to be made, right?
Right. So it in 1993 is actually how far in advance this project started, because in 1993 the producers Craig Zadan and Neil Maron, not sure,
we'll call it
Craig and Neil are our producers, two of our producers, our executive producers. They were in in charge of the 1993 televised adaptation of Gypsy that had Bette Midler in it.
Oh, cute. Okay.
So following the success of that, Whitney Houston actually approached them with the idea about a remake of Rodgers and Hammerstein's Cinderella, and it was originally supposed to be for CBS. And so because the development took so long, and the company lost interest in the project, it just kind of like fell by the wayside for a few years. And then by the time it was greenlit for Disney on ABC, she felt that she had outgrown the role because, Cinderella's supposed to be like young and doe-eyed and
teen.
innocent, and by the time you're 30, you're not quite as young and doe-eyed and innocent about the world.
She's like, I could just move out. I don't have to live with my stepmom forever. I'm 35. Like,
right. And so Whitney's like, I don't think I'm the best pick for Cinderella anymore. She still wanted to be like involved with the project. And so she was like, here's the deal, Brandy. That's it. Like, we're bringing her in. She's going to be Cinderella. And I thought it was so interesting that Brandy was like, okay, I'll do it, but you have to be the fairy godmother. Like,
that's right. She put an ultimatum. She said, yeah, I'll do it, but you got to be right there next to me.
Yeah, because they had this beautiful
what a great
relationship.
Way to like capture your idol, who's like, you're like this someone that you look up to, and she's like, you're gonna be the star in this movie, and she's like, only if you play my godmother. Like, I want to be in that scenario. I want to be in a scenario that I'm coercing Whitney Houston to be in a movie with me.
Truly. And when I read somewhere in my research that when Whitney called Brandy, she introduced herself as the fairy godmother. And I was like, that is the cutest thing I have ever heard of in my life.
I love that. I love that. Their scene in the carriage when they're on the way to the ball is, I think, one of my it makes my heart swell so much seeing them just belting next to each other in a CGI carriage,
holding each other's arms, like they
really
love
making
each
eye
other.
Contact. Yes, I was like, oh,
it is a good moment.
Woman power and friendship. It was so nice. That's
scene,
one of my favorite.
Every single scene with Whitney and Brandy, honestly, like, it's gold.
I love it so much. But I didn't realize that Brandy's only 17 when she
so young,
Cinderella.
so talented,
so young, so talented. And she wasn't a big name at the time.
She really wasn't. And because I have a note about that somewhere in my notes where she was currently on Moesha at the time.
Oh, really?
She was, but it hadn't quite launched quite yet. But despite having already established herself as a vocal artist and was already doing Moesha when she was offered the role, she's still quite like, she wasn't like a household name or anything just yet. And so this was something that, I mean, it really launched her whole life, really.
Yeah.
And what a thing.
Such a great. And then Paolo, who played Prince Charming, is Filipino American. His family immigrated to the US when he was a young boy, and he grew up in America. And this was his film debut. He did a lot of I know he did like the tour of, oh gosh, now I can't remember what it was.
I know when they cast him, he was at the time presently understudying in The King and I.
That's right. I knew he was in The King and I. He did a national tour of something else. So he had already kind of made a name for himself on the stage. But then this movie, oh my gosh, the chemistry between them is so beautiful. And the opening song that they sing, which that song, The Sweetest Sound, I did not know this is originally from No Strings.
Yep.
Which is a Richard Rodgers musical. But
that's
such a great song. And I loved that.
They Frankensteined a lot of songs into this particular version. And that's what's really beautiful about Cinderella as a whole, is that I feel like it's just sort of like flowed and adapted throughout each incarnation of it. And like they'll add songs here. I mean, it was originally written for television, and then it, got a little bit retooled by the time it rolled around to Leslie Ann Warren's version. And then 1997, they were like, well, we're going to do all of these things with it. And we're going to throw a few more songs in it that, nobody's heard really before, because they got lost in the musical theater anthology. And and then, you know, fast forward to, you know, 2012, 13, when the, you know, Broadway musical comes out, and we've got even more stuff that it's like, and we're gonna, you know, retool it this way, and so good. It's just evolving.
That is one of the great things about Cinderella, because there's not much that you can do with, I mean, Snow White kind of is Snow White. You know, you can change some of the details, but for the most part, it is the story. But with Cinderella, you can really put any flair on it, and it becomes a, you know, completely different story. Everyone has such a great entrance in this movie, and I think that's one of the things that I love about it most, is because you have this sweet song that they put in for the prince and Cinderella to meet for the first time, you know, before the ball. I love that they meet before the ball and are already have this connection when she's not dressed up and gorgeous. And then you see the stepsisters and Bernadette Peters, Miss Peters. And the dialogue there is so clever and so wonderful. I love that. Even Whoopi and Victor, whenever they come onto the screen, such amazing funny. Like, they make use of every second on that screen. There's no time wasted. It's just
I have a note about
and
the
music.
man who wrote it. I'm not sure where it is now, but I read about the person who wrote it. He didn't so much change the like DNA of the characters to because I mean the whole movie it's very modernized and yet not modernized at the same time. And I thought it was very interesting that there was a comment he had made about how he didn't really change the DNA of the characters or how they are, but he just changed their characteristics about how they react to the world around them. And I was like, that's so smart, because, you know, like the characters are all the same, and yet they're absolutely polarly different than they have been.
I think his name is Robert L. Friedman.
Yes,
just for everyone.
Robert L. Friedman.
Thanks, Robert. Great job.
Yeah, no, he did a great job with the screenplay.
One of the things that I noticed about the sisters, so, you know, I think in the original movie and in some older versions, I don't remember in the 1957 version if the sisters are written this way, but they don't really attack Cinderella. They're not like abusive to her in the sense that the stepmother is. They ask her for things like, they treat her like a maid, a servant, or, you know, a butler, a servant. But her stepmom is really the one that, I mean, Bernadette has that awful monologue where she's standing on the stairs talking to Cinderella and telling her, you're common. And it's so heartbreaking.
Always be common.
It's so incredible, but it's so mean, so mean-spirited. And I read that Bernadette had a hard time filming that scene. She was like, I'm not used to playing evil characters, and it was really hard to be mean to Brandy like that. And I was like,
because Brandy's just an angel.
She's like a 17-year-old, like innocent, sweet angel.
With those big, beautiful eyes, just like,
love me, please, set me free.
I mean, and that really is the meanest and like the ugliest words that she has to say in the whole movie, because otherwise they actually made the stepmother more comic than usual because of Bernadette's, you know, experience in the comedy genre. And so they made her far more comical, but that monologue
it gives me chills
gut
thinking about
wrenching.
it. She's so mean. It's so mean. I do love, we talked about this too in A Lovely Night, sort of at the end of the movie, when Bernadette, she buys into the fantasy, the picture that Cinderella is painting of, she's recounting what she thinks the ball would have been like had she gone, you know, trying to pull the wool over their eyes still. And Bernadette's character does get wrapped up in it, and she's, you know, sings.
She's playing with them, and she's, you know, and it's inclusive of Cinderella. Like, it's not the stepsisters and the stepmother playing along with each other. It's them. Cinderella starts it, and the sisters for like a hot second, they're a family. And then Bernadette remembers that she doesn't like Cinderella, and
she's like, oh yeah, I hate her.
and kind of like rips the, illusion away.
Yeah.
But it's
so
just
brilliant.
such an interesting moment that it's like, oh, this is what could have been.
And of course they gave her a song, Falling in Love with Love.
That was another one of the
The
songs
Boys
that
from
they
Syracuse.
pulled in. And then I want to talk about the other song they added, which I loved. They brought in There Is Music in You.
Yes.
At the very, very end. And so I didn't know it had apparently been covered by Bing Crosby.
Oh, really?
And just like sat in obscurity for 40 years. And so then it gets rediscovered. And the original song didn't have a bridge and was, quote, in my notes, deemed inferior to Houston's trademark vocals. And I was like, that's fair.
I don't think they were writing with Whitney in mind. Yeah, I'm sure she outgrew
So it
them.
didn't have a bridge, and they were like, well, we need a bridge. Like, we're going to add one. So they combine it with One Foot, Other Foot from Allegro, which was another Rodgers and Hammerstein musical.
Oh.
And I just thought it was so interesting that they did that. They spliced it with another song that no one really knows about. And then on top of that, this is just me music nerding for a little bit. They have samples of Impossible and the Wedding March that are just sort of like interpolated into the melody, and it's like, mwah, it's so good.
Her voice on that, the way that she uses dynamics through those end credits is so beautiful. I think that's one of the movies that you just like let play through the end credits. You don't turn it off because she sounds so beautiful.
It's so good.
And so good on it.
And then we have the added like poetry of like the whole movie is bookended by songs about music. Because we've got The Sweetest Sounds as the first song you hear in the movie, and it's talking about music, and then we're bookended at the very end about There Is Music in You, and I'm like, it's so good. Poetry.
Absolute poetry. I also read a thing, and Brandy said that what she loved about being on set with Whitney was that Whitney really encouraged her to be herself, which I think at 17, starring in a movie has got to be, such a huge stressful situation with Whitney Houston.
Well, all
as
of
your
that
literal godmother and
17,
producer,
being the star of this massive Disney movie. She's also the first Black actress to play Cinderella. This is huge. It is massive.
Big deal.
She is making history. So, I mean, that's a lot on a 17-year-old Brandy's beautiful shoulders.
Yes. Her beautiful shoulders.
Her beautiful shoulders.
But like, I mean, imagine all of that stress, and thank God that Whitney Houston was like, you do you, like be your best self, and was such a great gentle coach, who I'm sure knew when to push her and when to be a godmother. I love that.
I love what I can. You can tell that they had such a beautiful relationship with each other, and it's so clear in every scene that they have together. I love that.
I feel like we should honorably talk about Jason Alexander singing the invitation song, The Princess.
I don't even know what it's called, because I'm just like, it's the prince's name, which is 9,000 years long. I didn't even write it all down, but he has like 12 names.
So Jason Alexander plays the right-hand man of the king and queen, basically. He's like the royal assistant, if you will. And he plays the straight man, which is so funny. I guess Jason Alexander does kind of play the straight man.
Yeah. I did read that he intentionally wanted it because it originally was written with a few little like in jokes from Seinfeld. And he was like, I don't want that. I want it to be completely different from George Costanza. And I was like, yes, this didn't need to have that.
Right. We don't need
You are
Yuck,
not the
yuck
star.
jokes.
You are a member of this beautiful ensemble.
And he did so good. He plays such a funny guy, and he and Whoopi together, and he and Bernadette together are some of the best on-screen
Comedy
pairings that
gold.
I've seen. I love them so much. But
Absolute
he sings that
comedy
song and
gold.
it's so great. I don't know if Rob Marshall did all of the choreography for it, but I know he was.
I don't
on
have
set
anyone
as a
else.
choreographer.
Yeah,
Maybe it
he's
was.
listed as the choreographer. He's the only one I found. I'm sure he was not alone.
For those who don't know, he did like Mary Poppins Returns as well as Into the Woods, as well as he's got a really long list of wonderful repertoire that he has done. So the choreography was a great part. What are some of your favorite parts?
I love the stepsisters. I think they are shining stars of this movie. The comedy at every turn and effortless. It is beautiful. Between the beautiful Natalie Dessel-Reid and Vienne Cox, I mean, there's not a moment that I don't love that they do because it's just beautiful.
My siblings and I mean, all of the music is beautiful. And I think so many of the songs from it have been stuck in my head for the last 20 years. But Stepsisters Lament is one that I remember singing with my siblings so loud, nonstop.
It's so fun.
It's such a fun song.
And they make so much of it. It's just them like climbing over each other and like rolling through the bushes, trying to be stealthy, but they're wearing these like reflective gowns. So I'm like, how did the prince and Cinderella not notice this? You know that was taffeta too. Like that was crinkly.
It's like swishing. Might as well be wearing a windsuit. Just like, my God.
They made so much of it. And I read somewhere where Vienne Cox had commented about Natalie on set and just being so effortlessly funny. And she was just that way. And she's so great.
She was. Unfortunately, we learned that Natalie passed away this
past year in 2020. But she lives on.
Rest in peace. Gosh, such a great performance all around. Stepsisters Lament, I think, is one of the best numbers. And they are, even that chorus that they have in A Lovely Night after the ball. I love it. It's so iconic. And she literally just says like one word or one phrase, darling,
I love you.
And it's one of my favorite comedy parts. Like that's how you have to sing it at some point.
Well, and then you have Vienne Cox being like, how lovely. How lovely.
And Vienne Cox is like a Carol Burnett, reincarnation.
Like a carbon copy. Like
it truly so funny.
The mannerisms, similar features, the facial expressions. She's so good.
They were such a great pair, such a well-paired team.
I mean, and there were so many good pairings. Like you've got Whitney and Brandy, fantastic pairing. You've got Lionel and Christopher, another amazing pairing. Like they have so many scenes together where you just have this like back and forth, and it's so funny. You've got the stepsisters. You've got Bernadette with literally anybody she talks to in the movie, and then you've got Whoopi and Victor, who just have this beautiful, and you can tell it's this lovely, loving, respectful relationship between the two of them.
Yeah.
And I think we have to talk about Whoopi's most iconic lines, which I guarantee are not written on the page. Words. Her iconic squeaking. The squeaks.
It's the best line in the whole movie, and there are no words.
And I'm...
She does it so well. Oh, she does
it so well. Goes from... Well, I know. It's just this beautiful, like, warm butter voice.
Yes.
Well, darling.
When we were rewatching it the other day, I was like, I just miss Whoopi. I don't watch her morning TV show, The View or whichever one she's on.
I think it's The View.
I want her to do movies again. I love her so much. I love her voice. She was a judge on RuPaul's Drag Race. I wanted more of her there. And that's a person that, like, if they had those masterclass things and Whoopi Goldberg had one, I hope maybe she already did one. I would be like, I'm buying that.
So I learned a fun fact about Whoopi, and we can talk about costumes because this is a pretty good segue.
Ooh, yes.
So the costumes, first of all, were designed by Ellen Mirajnik. So Whoopi's jewelry in the film, the costume department actually originally created like fake jewelry for her, and it consisted of like rhinestones for her to wear during the ballroom and wedding sequences. And Whoopi was like, no, we're not having this. And she insisted that the film's queen should wear real jewelry instead. So she personally contacted Harry Winston.
Oh my God.
Personally was like, hey, Harry, what's up? I need a favor. And so asked him if he could lend like millions of dollars worth of jewels, which
I think it ended up being $2 million. I think I do remember
it did. It took $2 million to make her jewelry alone. It was a 70 karat diamond ring and a necklace that was worth 9 million. So the diamond ring was 9 million and the necklace was 2.5 million.
Oh my land.
And I was like, of course she did. She's personal friends with Harry Winston. Was like, no, I got this. I want to wear real jewelry and I want to make it happen. And so he loaned all of these jewels, millions of dollars of jewelry to the production and supplied the set with like 3 guards to make sure that it was like all good, all safe. It got back where it needed to go at the end of the day.
That is too much stress. That is too much stress. I'd be like, I don't want to touch it. Somebody else put it on and take it off me. I can't be the one.
Well, now I need to like go back and rewatch it and like look at this because I don't think she looks fabulous in all of her violets, but I don't think I've ever paid attention to the necklace and the ring she has on.
I did take note, but I wasn't like, wow, that is definitely, because everything in the movie is so colorful and whimsical. You know what I mean?
Glittery.
It's so ornate. Yeah, it has so much detail in the movie and in all of the designs of the costumes. So it's very busy. There's a lot going on.
A lot of color.
I did notice that she had some really cool jewelry, but my goodness. Thanks, Mr. Winston.
But yeah, so Ellen Mirajnik is our costumer.
Way to go, Ellen.
She aspired to making the costumes both funny and stylish in appearance, and I think succeeded.
Mission accomplished. Yeah, you did it, girl.
The use of jewel tones alone.
Yeah, if you can have a ball where everyone is wearing a shade of blue or purple, and then to have another girl in blue,
and have her stand out.
That's genius. I mean, that's impressive. Obviously, lighting helps.
Lighting,
camera angles help. But
my God, Brandy's
dress. That dress is so beautiful.
I want to touch it. I want to like look at it in person. I want to admire it. It is so beautiful. The not quite a sweetheart neckline. The like drippy,
the dainty off the shoulder with the beading. Oh.
The peplum. We've never seen Cinderella with a peplum waistline, and I'm into it.
It just makes sense. It's
beautiful. She looks
honestly, I'd love
stunning.
to see her just take off the bottom skirt part, pair it with some pants, and she's doing some like Elsa cosplay.
I mean,
that's the easy
Brandy
route for this.
She's not listening to this.
Elsa. She's not.
She's not.
Brandy,
but if she ever does, Brandy, if you ever listen to this,
that dress is so great. I do love her. It totally dates itself with her necklace. I was like, pretty sure I had that necklace. I think little diamond. We all did.
It was at Claire's.
Yes. It came in a set.
I think they sold it at Claire's. Hers was probably real though. So
she's wise. Claire sold it.
Honestly though, they probably were like, that we want it.
I think I probably only got one after I saw
because I was like, it's beautiful. but she just looks so good.
So good.
And such a contrast to the warm earth tones that she wore the rest of the movie. And I just feel like we need to talk about her hair. I remember being
oh my God,
a young little child, and I watched this when it aired. I remember watching it because I remember watching it and being like, oh my gosh, she's beautiful. And her beautiful box braids
were just like
immaculate. Just so delicate. It is so beautiful. And I mean, that is such a beautiful image that she gave to this whole generation of little girls, and specifically like little girls of color. And Cinderella has box braids, and that is who she is. And oh my God, I just remember being like, how old was I? 5, 4, and watching this, and I was like, she's beautiful. Look at her braids. They're beautiful.
Yes. Her hair was incredible. Even in the ball, I love what they did with her hair.
The gentle like ringlets, but she's got this beautiful like updo and her little like tiara. Immaculate.
And even Whoopi does she have dreads for those?
No, Whoopi had this beauty. She had the gold, like the blonde in her hair.
Right, yeah.
So she's like glittering from head to toe, like literally from head to toe. Her hair, the beautiful, like the blonde highlights in her hair, and it just is the right amount of accent to her beautiful like gold gown, and her little arm capes that she like swishes with.
Yes, the arm capes.
The arm capes. And
I need to look at
this
jewelry that she has. Oh, she does have the braids. Oh, her hair was so good in that too. This jewelry though, okay, I can believe it. That looks like some nice jewelry.
Oh, Whoopi. You said Whoopi. I heard Whitney.
Yes.
I heard Whitney.
Oh, okay. I was like, Whoopi.
So I was talking about Whitney.
Okay.
No, Whoopi
has.
Your Google Home isn't set up yet. To get started,
Your Google
Hello,
Home
Google.
Hey, Google. Stop.
Your Google Home isn't set up yet. To get started, download the Google Home app on a phone or tablet.
Okay. Thank you. I think I said Whoopi's last name, and little girl thought I was talking to her.
Oh, yep. No.
Wrong.
Okay. Yes. No. Whoopi.
She does have stuff in her hair though. In the beginning. Okay. See, I was like, no, she has the gold stuff too.
No.
Okay.
You said Whoopi. My ears said Whitney.
Okay. Well, now that we're on the same page, love Whoopi's hair.
Oh, it's great.
It was so good.
She's got that like crown that goes flawless.
How they did it for the ball, I'm just obsessed with. But
she had that like twist. There was like a twist situation.
It like wraps back. It's so beautiful. But Whitney's hair, yes, they were like streamer highlights.
Yeah, and they it's like they glittered, and everything about the fairy godmother, I swear, glittered down to, and this is one of my favorite weird little details in the whole movie, those little spirals.
Yes.
The little spirals that are in everything. They are on the ground. They are on the on the set decorations. They are in all of the little CGI magic sparkles. But it's just those little, and the wheels on the carriage even were the little spirals. And I don't know why that stuck out to me as a child, but I was like, look at the little
they were so pretty. I mean, they were so beautiful in the way that they incorporated them. The magic sparkles in particular. I was like mesmerizing.
But yeah, no, Whoopi or
There we go.
Names. Whitney.
Whitney
had the beautiful, like the blonde throughout her hair, and it just was the right pop, and it matched her gold dress so beautifully.
Oh, that gold dress.
It's so good.
Only she can wear that. She's the only one.
It was the most beautiful, like sand color.
Oh my god!
It was like glittering sand. It was so gorgeous. Reading everything about this movie and you know, people working on it, it just seems like it was this wonderful positive experience. Like, I don't think I read something from a cast member that was like, well, this was all, you know, like, yes, it was
It was
okay.
sketchy.
No, everyone seemed to be very positive about their cast members and positive about the, you know, executive producers who worked so hard to make this such a beautiful, like, culmination of a generation. And they did, with this incredible multiracial cast, and it's so good.
Beautifully done. The ensemble is so incredible.
We need to shout out the executive producer, Deborah
please
Martin
do.
Chase. Deborah
on,
Martin
Deborah.
Chase was she was also had a big hand in creating what it ended up being. And I have a note with a quote from her. It's a bit of a long quote. I found this on, you know,
Read
good
to
old
me.
Wikipedia. So it says, executive producer Deborah Martin Chase explained that despite enjoying Leslie Ann Warren's performance as Cinderella, she and Whitney Houston realized that they never saw a person of color playing Cinderella. And so she goes on to explain, to have a Black Cinderella is just something, I know it was important for Whitney to leave this legacy for her daughter. And Chase hoped that the film, mirroring an evolving society, will touch every child and the child in every adult, encouraging children of all colors to dream. Apparently there was a Disney executive that had been, you know, proposing a white Cinderella with a Black fairy godmother, and had suggested singer-songwriter Jewel for Cinderella. And the producers flat out refused, insisting that the whole point of this was to have a Black Cinderella. And I love that.
Amen.
I think
I'm
it is
glad
so
they
important.
stuck to their guns.
They did. And I really appreciate that, because I think it could have been so easy to just be like, okay. And they
Jewel's
said,
already here. Let
right.
Jewel
But they
it.
said, no, this is the point. This is what it has to be. And I love that they said that, and they got it.
I mean, and for me, it had to be the first movie that I saw where there was a Black woman as the ingenue. You know, it had to have been, because it came out in 97, so I was 6 years old. So yeah, that was probably my first introduction to, you know, even Filipino American Paolo being on there as well. You know, that was probably the first time I ever saw people of color being the leads in a movie, especially a fairy tale. Which is,
I have another
happy they did. It worked
another
out
quote on
really
here
well.
from a writer for Elle, the magazine, Eric Thomas. And he crowned this particular movie one of the most important movies of the 90s. I will go on to say of history, because it's amazing. And he described it as effortlessly, even unintentionally progressive. And I think that really does sum it up, because while it was, you know, breaking down barriers and being super influential and making history as this beautiful multiracial cast of this, you know, film, it feels so effortless. It's so natural. And I think that, I mean, it's the world made as it should be.
Yeah.
And how it is, the world made as it is.
It wasn't sold as this is Black Cinderella. You know what I mean?
It's Cinderella, because she is.
It's Cinderella. And they just did a really good job with the story and in the way that they told it. They just did what you do in movies. And I love that so much. It reminds me a lot. It has the same feel as, you know, Shelley Duvall's fairy tale, that series that she did that was also sort of made for TV. You know, it's obviously not like a Disney, you know, Disney's live remake of Cinderella, but the way that they did it was so warm and endearing and beautiful and lovely. And great to listen to. The music was so wonderful, and it was beautiful to watch with all these wonderful performers and people and in these great costumes. I just don't think they did anything wrong with this one. It
They
just
really
turned
didn't.
out
It
so
is immaculately, perfectly done.
I can't imagine, since Disney announced that they're putting it on Disney Plus, I think it just came out on there,
On the
but
12th. Yeah.
I've seen a lot of people posting about it, so I'm really excited because it seems like people did watch it and do remember it.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
hoping that the teenagers now, or the kids now get to watch it on Disney Plus and have a whole new love for it, that
Well,
it reaches a whole new generation.
It's interesting because it broke viewership records when it aired, and it still holds the record, I think, for best-selling video for a made-for-TV.
From a TV. Yes,
Yeah,
it does.
like a made-for-TV movie. And I think that is further proof that they did such a incredible job with this movie, and it is immaculately cast and immaculately executed. And I just don't have any, I can't just stop gushing about it. It's just so perfect. And I have loved it.
To watch it over and over again.
The Brandy version of Cinderella, I swear, has been like my trap card of everything since 1997. Like if someone's talking about Cinderella, I'm like, okay, but Brandy Cinderella.
Well, we're talking about Brandy, right?
Are we talking about Brandy? Because that's my Cinderella. That is the one I grew up with. I was there to witness that, the birth of that movie.
She was our Cinderella. I mean, if you really think about it.
That's the one I watched. Like, of course I've seen the animated Disney Cinderella.
Yeah.
I didn't watch it, and it's great. Lovely, classic.
A delight.
Nothing against it. It just didn't hold my attention the way that this one does.
It's not the same kind of entertainment that
this one
is.
And it is a completely different version of the same story. It just never held my attention the way that this one does. And I don't know what it is. I don't know if as a child I was just so drawn to the glitz and the color and the comedy of it. I could not tell you what, as a 4-year-old, I was like, I remember loving Whitney. I remember thinking that she was just beautiful in her,
that
like,
voice was magical,
bedazzled gown.
She had no business looking that good as the fairy godmother. She really did. And I also loved that in this one, Cinderella does not care about the prince, like in regards to the ball. And I don't think that any of the versions really focus too much on Cinderella being like, I can't wait to meet the prince. Like she really is kind of just interested in going to the ball.
Because even when she meets him, she doesn't know he's the prince.
Right.
She's like, this nice boy.
This nice young gentleman would like to dance with me.
I thought I'd like to go to the ball to her stepmother. And the stepmother's like, why? So you can dance with Prince? And she's like, not what I asked. I just wanted to go to the party,
and sing and dance. Like
I just want to have a good time.
I clean all day, every day, and I carry your bags. I'd like to go let loose.
I would really like to see a change of scenery. And on the flip side, they did so they did a wonderful job with making Cinderella much more independently minded and just kind of like her own person and having these thoughts of her own. On the flip side, they give Prince Christopher, first of all, a name. Second of all, multiple names, actually. They really doubled down on the fact that he'd been called Prince Charming for so many years.
And they were like, names. They're making up for lost names.
We're going to give him 12 names and we're going to have a song about them. And so anyway, but they give Prince Christopher this wonderful idea of, not only is he looking for love, like he's not just looking for whoever his parents want to set him up with, like he is vehemently opposed to an arranged marriage. He's like, I don't want that. Not cool. It works for other people, not for me.
I want to marry for love.
He wants to marry for love. and on top of that, he even says to Cinderella, like, I'm not just looking for another pretty face. Like, there's plenty of that in the world. I'm looking for someone to connect with, to talk to. Like, he wants someone to match him in intellect and have a conversation with, and share things with that person that he can't share with his parents, and he can't share with Lionel.
Chemistry,
and
real chemistry.
he
not
wants
just
real
oh, that
chemistry.
girl's real attractive.
She's
in that
beautiful.
dress. I want her. Yeah, it
And so it's
it
a
does give
nice
him a
expansion.
personality in the first place, and he's funny.
He is funny.
He is
Paolo.
funny, and he's so sweet. Oh, he's so sweet. That
And
voice
looks genuinely just
Mm.
dazzled by Cinderella
when they're dancing.
every
They look
turn.
so in love, and I gotta tell you, like you love people, but when you dance with them and you just have to stare in their eyes, you're like, hey man, how's it going? If you've ever like danced on stage with, not your significant other and another person, it makes it so much harder that you're like, hey, Daniel, it's so good to see you. How was your break? It was good. That's good.
But he
We're
just
still
looks
making eye
so
contact, and he makes it
utterly
look so
dazzled.
easy.
And this genuine, like, adorable.
Granted, he's looking at Brandy. So
I mean,
like,
we would
that
all
was
look at
not
Brandy
her.
like that if we were dancing with her. She learned to waltz for this show, like for this
Aw,
movie, and I was
17
like,
years old.
she's learning.
Get it done.
Oh, so good, and he just looks so charmed by her.
He does. I really love him.
I love that. He's adorable. We love Paolo.
Good job, bud.
What's he up to now?
I know he's done some like TV projects. I was kind of snooping around on the IMDb. But yeah.
He really is Prince Charming. I am gonna mention real quick, they did he was the last person to audition for the Prince.
Oh, really?
I mean, clearly they found him and they were like, we're done.
We're done.
We're done. But apparently, so the list of they held auditions in both Los Angeles and New York, and there were several well-known actors that auditioned for the role, which included Wayne Brady, Antonio Sabato Jr., Mark Anthony, and Taye Diggs, who had been currently starring in Rent at the time.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
Could
and so
you imagine?
Yeah, and what's even more wonderful, and just a note to how wonderful Paolo Montalban was in this role, he was basically unknown.
Yeah.
And he really, of the main cast, is one of the only ones that was not already fairly established. And he's so wonderful. He's so delightful, and he's cute.
So cute. Him, and when he's like buttoning up his shirt and his vest, and it's all like half.
So cute. Adorable.
Hi.
I love him.
Hi. I do love him so much. But yeah, this one was a win for me. I give it a 10 out of 10. It's good for any occasion.
Out of 10.
Yes, good for any occasion. And you got music, some bops. It sticks in your head. They're really catchy.
It does.
Really catchy. But that's all I have for this one.
I don't think I have much more. I have one fun fact.
Oh,
give me our fun fact corner. They so to do when they're when Whitney and Brandy are singing the It's Possible like reprise, and she's in the carriage, she's headed to the ball.
My favorite part.
Apparently they achieved this by Brandy was like on like a pulley, and so she's being strung along with this carriage, and I was like, I love knowing that she was actually flying next to this carriage instead of just being like
Whitney was being okay. You said Brandy, so I was like,
I'm sorry.
Was she not in the carriage?
No, Brandy's in the carriage.
So Brandy's in a carriage. Whitney's on a pulley system.
Is on a pulley
zip tying her way,
zip lining. She's zip lining along with the carriage, and I love that they didn't just like CG her
an icon.
I love that.
I love that.
So that was my fun little fact that I was like, I love knowing that.
I love that.
She's on a,
She
like
really
a little
is.
zip line.
She does have that ode to Glinda the Good Witch when she's like flying over. Is it at the end when she's like flying over the city?
Mhm.
She's like
Yeah.
appeared sort of half.
Oh, I have one more thing. One more fun fact. And it
Share.
ties in with our very first episode.
Okay.
So, Prince Christopher's palace was built on the same location that had been the yellow brick road in The Wizard of Oz in 1939.
Yes.
And so the palace courtyard bricks are painted yellow as an homage.
I
thought that
love
was so nice.
We
I
see
found
we
that, I
sewed
was-
those together. We sewed those together.
We did just a little stitch.
It was meant to
But I
be.
did. I read that and I was like, I love it.
That's so crazy. What a small world. I love that. This was a win. If you haven't seen this movie already, what are you doing with your life?
Run.
Please watch it. It's on Disney Plus right now if you have Disney Plus, but you can also obviously rent it. Or you
Pretty sure you can find it on YouTube.
Yeah, YouTube maybe. You might have to rent it, but
Maybe.
it's like $2 or $3. You can do it.
It's worth it.
Rent it. It's so
More
worth
than worth it. I
But
love it.
we love it. Thanks for joining us on Please and Take It With You.
All right.
I'm Bailey.
And I'm Caitlin.
We'll see you next time.
Goodbye.
Bye.